Morning, good afternoon. Morning for me. Migraines where I would vomit, need to go to bed, like it was full. And then I had like full pain in my face. And the sort of labels I ended up getting was like migraine, atypical trigeminal neuralgia or type 2 trigeminal neuropathy, because it was sort of my trigeminal nerve. I had pain all in my teeth. Eventually also really bad TMJ. So I just woke up one morning and I couldn't open my mouth any more than like, I couldn't even fit my toothbrush into my mouth. So I spent about, I spent quite a while, like I couldn't talk properly. I had this like, I couldn't eat, couldn't really move my mouth. Went down my neck, ended up with bad neck pain. After one experience with a neurologist where they put steroids into the back of my head, I ended up with neuropathy. In the what are those nerves called? There's like the two nerves that run up the back of your head, occipital neuropathy as well. And then I ended up with, I was getting like shocking pains down my arms at one point, and then I ended up, this one's a bit embarrassing, but I used to get shocking pains in like my butt as well, which I would like, they would like take my breath away. It was so like, it would just come out of nowhere. But anyway, I was a full blown like case of it by the time I was like, I don't know, my mid-20s, and I'd seen about, I don't know, let's say, I don't know, there's like, 5 different neurologists, like there was a couple of pain specialists in there. There was a, what are they called? They deal with hormones, because I used to find I had a lot of link to when I had my period. Endocrinologist, yeah, because when I had my period, things were a lot worse for me. And there were rheumatologists, there were, I don't know, you name it, I'd been there. Drugs I'd been on, like, all the amitriptylines, the gabapentins, and then I'd had all the, the nerve blocks, the steroid injections. I was getting Botox in my face, like total mess. Did
the amitriptyline work for you? Because I took that and it didn't work at all.
It didn't work at all, and it was horrendous because it made me not feel like myself. I was in this like perpetual fog, and it was quite scary for me, actually. They actually put me on amitriptyline when I was just 12. That was the first medication I went on. I was only 12 when I went on that. And I remember it was so scary for me, to the point where I pretended my headaches went away so that they wouldn't do anything else to me. So it was like, and then I think it was like later on when I went to a neurologist, he made me go back on the amitriptyline, and I was like, I've been on that, it didn't help. And he's like, no, you have to go back on that. That's a drug we use for migraines. Like, you have to go back on that. So same thing. It was just like, awful stuff, I think.
Yeah. So you said teeth pain. It was in your teeth as well?
It was in my teeth, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just insane. And then only 12 years old is crazy. So from 12 to your 20s, like you just managed, like you just survived, like what did you become depressed? Did you become
it was pure survival mode for me.
Pure
survival mode the entire time. Extraordinarily depressed. There was a point there where I was very suicidal. Extraordinarily depressed, extraordinarily anxious, very suicidal. I look back and think I missed out on a lot of like my kind of teenage years and childhood years, because a lot of it was just squirreled away in so much pain.
I'm
lucky that I have a really supportive partner who kind of, through the worst of it, when I had the really bad TMJ and things like that, I remember he would kind of like, it just felt like things were getting worse, and it didn't matter what the doctors did or said to me, things just kept getting worse. And he would hold me at night while I would kind of cry and just like be like, I just want to die. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, nothing is ever going to get any better. So yeah, all of those things.
Yeah. How was the symptom profile, like 24/7, or kind of come and go?
I had 24/7 pain. There was 24/7 always something there. But like things would, fluctuate, but 24/7 I had pain in my face. It originally didn't start like that, but it like evolved into that, if that makes sense.
That's kind of what happened to me. And yeah, like Sarno said, this TMS, it has to be confronted or else it's going to keep going. That's, you're an example of that. I'm an example of that. Because of the way the brain works and neuroplasticity, the more pain gets fired off, plus a bad response to the pain, the responses that are fear-based, these actually teach the brain that pain is a threat, and then it keeps it going. And so it gets worse and worse. If you're never taught the coping skills for pain, then your brain just gets more sensitive and more sensitive as time goes on. It happened to me as well. So sorry to hear that. I wanted to touch on amitriptyline. When I took it for like 4 days and it did nothing. And then I was so mad, I like threw it against the wall. Because it's just upsetting when the medical profession doesn't have an answer for you, and you've been like conditioned to look at these people as
they could go to
like
the doctor, they'll fix
godlike.
you.
Yeah, they're godlike, and like they have all the answers to your maladies.
For me, it was when the medications would make things worse. So for example, when they put me on Cymbalta, I remember that one, coming off that was excruciating. Like coming off that gave me excruciating pain because I had such bad withdrawals. And it was like, nobody warned you of any of those things. They never tell you about the side effects, or they just like, here, take this prescription, and you walk out the door, and that's all they give you. And it's like infinitely frustrating.
Yeah, well, you came out a victor, so I won't say that I'm sorry that you went through this. I will say that thank God that you're here now and you're victorious, and now I'm sure your life is the best it's ever been. So yeah, and if you don't mind me sharing, and I'll cut this if you don't want this, but you're pregnant right now, right?
I am pregnant. I was going to announce it on my own podcast in about March, but I don't mind if it comes out earlier.
Okay, well, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. I believe, so it's interesting because I believe that my TMS actually, because I had 2.5 years of infertility, and I believe that's what my TMS kind of morphed into, because I had a lot of issues around like mothering and motherhood. And it's interesting because one of the kind of issues for me I needed to confront was I had this belief that I was rotten. It was interesting how that manifested, because I used to always say, it feels like the bones in my face are rotten. And it's like I had this visual that if you would like, it's gross, but if you would saw into the bones in my face, all this like pus would come out. But it was like, I had all these like things I had to like,
that's an interesting observation for multiple reasons. One reason, this kind of dirty, rotten kind of language is not specific to you. I saw another woman who deals with a certain condition who it's like a fibrotic condition, endometriosis, for those who don't know. But I saw her on a podcast with Steve Ozanich, and she was talking about how in her journey, she would say, I wanted surgery so they could clean me out.
Yeah.
Clean me out. Clean you out of what? You're not dirty. You're not broken, right? So this kind of language is interesting.
Yeah, I think Steve Ozanich talks about kind of the pool of rage we get and the personality characteristics and things we develop to avoid those hidden beliefs we have that we don't even really know about. And that's, yeah, I think it's actually quite common for people to have those like, I'm rotten, or I'm unlovable, or I'm that kind of sit under the surface that we pick up in childhood from our experiences. And like those are way too painful to look at or think about. So we become the perfectionists or the people pleasers, or the, to try and sort of avoid that reality, that what we think is reality.
Yeah, I mean,
that
even
feeds into it.
I love that. And even as children, like we're taught about germs, for example, like, oh, avoid icky germs, yucky germs. Germs are a part of life.
Huge.
You can't escape germs.
I was say, particularly during the last couple of years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But so it's the language that we use, the language that we're taught as a kid. We take that into our adulthood. Thank you for sharing the whole rotten face thing. Now I want to touch more on the infertility part, because that's huge. And a lot of people will be offended if you come out straight up and tell them that their infertility could possibly be due to an emotional
People are
What do you
offended
have
if
to
you
say
tell
about
them
that?
anything is emotional. Like
Right.
it's such a hard reality, I think, to kind of confront that, like, this could be emotionally driven, because you're just so conditioned right from the start to think this is my body, there's something wrong with my
That they're
body,
separate.
it's physical, it's separate.
Yes.
And it was so hard for me, and I've only reflected on this recently because I've spent 15 years in the medical system, spending all that money, being so like just, I don't know,
You
abused, I guess.
did you
That
spend a
you
lot of time trying to solve your infertility as well in the medical system?
Actually not so much. That was like, my husband was very much like, it'll be okay, it'll happen. Like, I did go and get like all the tests around, like, you know, are my hormones functioning right? Am I ovulating? He had the, you know, sperm count done and all that kind of stuff. And everything kept coming up normal. Everything was normal. You know, I kept getting told, you're a young, healthy couple, just give it a little bit longer. And it was sort of, we were at that point where we were going, we had been referred to go and see like a specialist fertility person, and finally got there because I was kept getting dismissed. I kept being told, you know, just go away and try a bit longer, go away and try a bit longer. And it's like, it's been 2.5 years. Like, after a year, you get a diagnosis of unexplained infertility. Like, and then
Yeah.
but it was like we didn't, but we were just at that point, and then I was like, oh, actually I'm pregnant. So yeah.
Man, I have to say about the infertility. So when I was learning about TMS, I don't remember where I was, how it happened, but I believe I was listening to a conversation between a few women, and there was this woman who was trying to get pregnant. She couldn't get pregnant. Another woman said, "You're trying too hard. When you stop trying, that's when you get pregnant." And I was just learning about TMS, and I made the connection. I was like, huh, kind of like TMS. When you usually with TMS, like you give up trying to fight the pain and then it goes away. And you know, you'll it doesn't, like, I haven't ran a double blind placebo or whatever, but just my observations of the world, you generally find like people that are trying to have kids really hard, they don't have them, but then there's all these accident children. It's very strange.
I think mine was the clue to me, which would made me go, aha, I think this was TMS the whole time, was it was kind of like every month, you know, when I was waiting for my period, I would have this little moment of panic of like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if, like, oh my God, you know, and then you take the test and I'm like, I'm not sure if I really like want this, you know, like there was just that little part of me still that wasn't quite, that was a bit
A little bit of
fearful.
fear.
But then the month I tested positive, like I was like, I'm pregnant, there was none of that fear. That fear had completely gone, and I was just like really happy. So it was like, it wasn't until I was like ready that it actually happened, if that makes sense. So it was like, that made me go, oh, wow, actually all this time I'd been carrying some fear around that I hadn't unpacked or processed properly yet. So
Yeah, this thing about readiness is like so interesting. Because in the TMS world, it's almost like too, like our pain doesn't go away until we're ready to face our emotions. Because that's what is substituting. And when you're, as long as you're not ready to face those emotions, the condition remains.
I think that is 100% true, because it took me so long to go with my pain. I was like, it took me forever, and it wasn't until I got to a point where I was like safe enough, my nervous system had enough flexibility that I could actually face the emotions, that it went away. Like, it took a really long time because I wasn't ready. No matter how much I tried, no matter how much I wanted to be, I just wasn't ready. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, so let's dive into that. So what methods did you use? Any tools that you use, or methods, or maybe you kind of made up your own, like a lot of us do once we have the knowledge? What did you do?
Oh man, okay, so let's let's get into it. Okay,
let's do it.
So I guess the education portion was huge, because I'm a thinker, overthinker. Really had to convince myself and then keep convincing myself. So countless books, podcasts, all that kind of thing. Joining the really helpful Facebook groups. So like Alan Gordon's group, Drew Coverdale has a really good one. Nicole Sachs, Benny Fagan, all that kind of stuff. And then deleting myself from the unhelpful groups. So, the Migraine Australia, Facial Pain Warriors, any of those groups that sort of like identify you with your pain and these like long-standing
warrior, it's the warrior
condition. Yeah, I had to like get rid of all of that because it just like becomes this kind of like pool of like mutual suffering. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's
no, I've been a part of those forums.
That was like a really important step for me. Then like not talking about the pain or the symptoms, just like anyone would ask me, I say, please don't ask me about it. Like just like completely, that was really important. But then I went through the entire Curable app. I did the entire app, whatever was available at the time. Got no relief from my symptoms whatsoever from doing the whole app. Did all the journaling exercises, all the education. Then I did
so you did the whole app with no reduction?
The whole app symptoms without any reduction. No,
okay, keep going.
I said I had a really hard case to like get into. And then I journaled daily for months and months and months and months and months, and no reduction either from any of that. But part of that was also because I was thinking all of my feelings, but I wasn't in a space where I was ready to feel anything. So I was thinking it all, but not feeling any of it. So it wasn't. Then I meditated. I started a meditation practice. That was actually super helpful for me because that helped me get into a state where I was safe enough to actually be in my body again. I had to learn to be in my body. I was so afraid of my body. So I learned how to like do like body scan practices. So that was like, because I had a lot of pain in my face, I started at my feet and just really slowly worked my way up until I could be in my body again. Then there was no pain relief for me from doing that for ages. That was more just about cultivating that safety and learning how to be in my body again. Then what else did I do? I had some sessions, I won't name the place, but at a pain psychology place, which is quite well known. I did a lot of like somatic tracking and things like that. That also had very minimal impact on on my symptoms. I spent at least a few months there. But then I'd reached a point where I was like, okay, this is very emotional for me. I need to I've done a lot of work to feel safe in my body. I've done a lot of work to kind of remove the stress in my life. And I was feeling a lot better in myself, a lot. Like things were better, but I still had the symptoms. I wasn't really that afraid of them anymore. I could sit with them. I could sit in my body. Was then, told you this is a long story. Then I went and did breathing therapy. That in itself was also really helpful. I wouldn't say it had a whole heap of an effect on the pain, but I felt my nervous system just kind of go, oh, after doing that. And then I was like, it was like this another, because I had like so many years of just constant fight or flight. I needed to just develop that flexibility again.
And you know what, before you keep going, how many years of fight or flight do you think you were in? How many years?
Oh, well, I had 15 years of symptoms, so there was 15 years at least of like too
bare
much.
Minimum.
So, and even the lead up to that, I think there was a lot that led me up to it as well. So and it was during all of that, for me, a large part of it was, doubt is huge for people, and I had every kind of form of doubt you can think of. First it was doubt that this can't be real, the TMS thing can't be real. Then it was doubt about, well, TMS is real, obviously, look at all these recovery stories, but maybe I don't have TMS. Like, how do I know I have TMS? Then it was, okay, I'm sure I have TMS now, like I've got enough evidence, but maybe because it started when I was so young and it's been so long, maybe it's too ingrained in my brain, maybe I can't get better. So you have every form of doubt.
Dr. Dan Ratner does a good job of kind of identifying these things. He's kind of identified these doubts and actually has them like as a part of his kind of framework. That's how common they are. These are the most common doubts. And it's literally the order you said.
Yeah, your brain will throw them up at you though. It's a part of the defense mechanism. And part of what got you there, because you're an overthinker, most TMS personality, I think.
Did you? Because I had this, and it's absolutely ridiculous to think about this now. In the OCD world, they would call this meta OCD, which means it's like above, it's like layers of it. Where in the doubt process, you start to ask yourself, man, am I gaslighting myself calling this TMS? Like, it's like the defense mechanism is like saying that you're using a defense mechanism against it.
Yeah, most definitely. And I had the like, oh, yes. I had all of that.
It's amazing, the layers. And I tell my clients when they come in, like, we got to peel the layers of bullshit. Cause I had the same thing, Felicia. It was like one doubt, and then, okay, TMS is real. Do I have it? Another one. Okay, damn, I've had this for so long. Can I get better? Another one. So crazy.
Yeah, and then I also had that, you hear all these really fast recovery stories, like, what is wrong with me that I'm not recovering? And I just, like, the fast recovery stories did my head in when I was like, look at all this stuff I've done, but I was doing the typical, like, you know, check all the boxes, perfectionist, like, you know.
Just tell me what to do to get better and I'll do it.
But okay, so in the end, we'll get there. In the end, what really got me there is, I don't know if you've ever heard of his book, Zero Pain Now by Adam Halia, I think it is.
I have heard of it.
So it's a really, really simple approach. But you just lay there and you ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? And you just keep doing that until you actually feel something. So because I was still at that point where I was feeling this much in my body, like in terms of emotions, nothing. There was nothing going on. It was just completely numb. But I didn't realize that. And I was like, what am I feeling now? What am I feeling now? Got nothing out of that approach. But then it was a couple of weeks later, I was meditating. And while I was meditating, I just had this, like, I don't know, all this like rage and just like disgusting stuff just like popped out of me. It was like really like, and that was, I think the first one was, because I had all these different layers to it. The first one was like, I'm rotten, or I'm unlovable, or like something that I thought was like completely unthinkable. And then it was the next day I woke up and my symptoms were reduced dramatically. I was like, oh my God, like, wow. So that was kind of like the first step in that. But even that wasn't like, I had to keep going down that path. And what really I think got me there was I did a therapy called Hakomi, and it's like a mindfulness body-based therapy. And that's still also like helping you feel safe in your body, helping you feel safe with your emotions. And the session kind of starts with like tuning into your body and like finding a sensation and then following it through and, you know, feeling it or asking it what it's trying to tell you. And anyway, it was all of those sorts of things that finally got me over the line. That was like, yeah, that's it. It was so much. But even now, I'll say even now I struggle with like feeling emotions in the moment when it actually happens. So an example was I got into an argument over the Christmas period with a family member, as you do. Made me really angry. I was really angry about it. I knew I was really angry about it, but there was still like nothing. And it wasn't until I got home that night in the safety of my home that I was able to just like let it go. So even now there's still I'm still working on things, but I'm not in any pain. Well, not chronic pain. I still get my niggles and things like everyone does, but it's not chronic.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I get my little things here and there, a little bit of inflammation here and there, or a little bit of pain, zaps here and there, but nothing chronic.
Nothing chronic and nothing that worries you, nothing that makes you fearful again. You just go, oh yeah, I know what you are. Like,
right.
Whatever. Yeah. And then it's like gone.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sarno called it a cradle to the grave thing. So you're always going to have to manage your emotions. And sometimes you can fall back into the pattern of not managing them well. And that's when a symptom comes and knocks you on your shoulder. Says, hey, pay attention. So there's a few things I want to touch on in your journey. The first thing I want to mention is for people watching is that notice how she said she did all the somatic tracking, she did all the getting used to the symptoms, yet they persisted. my opinion, when you've done all that, it's a sign that you need the emotional work. Not everybody's going to need it. Some people, they go, oh, my pain's TMS, poof, it goes away, and then that's it. And then they never have it again. I've seen it on the Thank You Dr. Sarno website. I'm guessing those people didn't really have the TMS personality, and you don't need that to get rid of TMS. You don't need that to get TMS.
No, you just need enough fear. If you got enough fear of your symptoms, you get stuck in that cycle. Like, you just need to have enough fear.
Yes, but then there are some people with the TMS personality. Would you say you have that, Felicia?
1,000,000% TMS personality to a T.
Me too. Absolutely, me too. I didn't realize it till like very recently. Interesting. Now that when the mask of pain goes away, your personality becomes very apparent.
It's interesting too, because I didn't realize any of that stuff either. I was so disconnected from like who I was and what was happening for me. And I would do all those, like, you know, the TMS like quizzes. Do I have TMS? I think there's one on like.
Yeah, Dan Buglio has one.
Yeah. I would do all those quizzes and I would get like, no, not really, not likely, because I was so disconnected from what was happening that I just like couldn't register that I had the personality. I couldn't register that my symptoms were, you know, I was so up here, like outside of everything. But yeah.
Wow. I mean, so after Sarno's book, my personality became highlighted to me, but I didn't feel it until the pain went away. But I used to take that test, and I think on Dan's test, I got like 49 out of 51. It was like insane.
Yeah.
It was, my score was so high but I'm remembering now. I took the test multiple times. The first test, I barely like qualified. Like a few months later, I took it again, and then that's when I got to 49. And I was like, oh my God, my state of mind influenced the way I answered these questions. Like the questions are like, are you like an obsessive person, compulsive personality or whatever? And you know,
like, no, I'm
like, yeah, even though I'm here taking the test for the 4th time, I'm not obsessive, you know?
Yeah.
So
even though I've read 25 books, like, not at all.
Yeah, I read Divided Mind in one day, like not at all. So interesting. The other thing I wanted to mention with you is that the thing that got you through to your full recovery was like, you know, tools are tools. There's different ways. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. The thing that I see with you and everybody is you desensitize to your emotions, and you face them and you felt them and you let them go. Is this correct?
Correct. I had to feel them. I had to feel them and let them go. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I would say, I just wanted to go back to the point you made about doing this somatic tracking, you made this point a little while ago, doing all that sort of work first, and then that was an indicator that I need to do the emotional work. I think that's a really good point. And I also think that if you don't do that sort of somatic tracking kind of work first, particularly if you're someone like me who was so disconnected from their body, the emotional work isn't, like, I wasn't ready to do the emotional work. It was never going to help me because I wasn't feeling safe enough to feel anything or to let anything go. So I had to do that work first, firstly to identify that I needed the emotional work, but also to put myself in a position where I could do the emotional work, if that makes sense.
Yes, I totally agree. That's why I start with that first. Let's get you managing your daily symptoms first. Let's get you out of the 5 F's. Let's get you back into your body, because you've been in freeze mode. And that's one thing that you mentioned, is that you didn't feel any emotions. Freeze mode, classic freeze mode. Steve Ozanich, I know I talk about him a lot, but I just think he's such a great observer of people. And he starts off his book, first page, he says, the one thing I notice about every person that comes to me is they have lost access to their emotions.
Yeah.
And he actually says they've lost access to negative emotions, but what I've noticed is you lose access to
everything.
All of it. Yes,
it's everything.
You don't feel joy. You don't laugh. When you laugh, it doesn't hit the same. You don't feel it. I know exactly how that feels. Nothing really makes you mad. You know, I remember when and if it doesn't make you mad, you get a flare up in symptoms a lot of the times. You know, I closed the book, first time I read Divided Mind, I closed it, went outside, my mom started arguing with me, boom, pain flare. I didn't feel any kind of emotion at all. zero. All I felt was more pain.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's good.
I think that's why my pain layered and why I got worse, because it was like the emotions gradually kind of shut down over time, if that makes sense. And it was like the more emotions that shut down, the more things you have to trigger a pain flare, if that makes sense. So it's like
yes. Yes.
Whenever I was super happy, there's boom, pain. Whenever I was like angry, boom, pain. It was just like all of this, like everything was just like,
yes. And I
being
also
funneled into pain.
Absolutely. That's the only outlet that your body has at that point. I do want to also say, like what you said about doing the somatic track and getting back in your body, reducing fear of symptoms. These things I think also prepare you to do the work, because you start to also eradicate your doubt as you're doing that. You start to see chinks in the armor. You're becoming aware. Like that day when I closed the John Sarno book, my mom, boom, I made the connection there. This is emotional. Like, I just instead of getting mad, I got pain. And when we have that awareness, I think that will also build us up to start to open up to our emotions.
And the one thing I wish I had done, which I didn't do, which I would advise everyone to do, which I think is commonly recommended now anyway, is to keep a journal of every time you have a moment where you think, oh yeah, that's TMS. Write it down.
Yes.
Because you will have more doubts at some point later on, and being able to come back to that, like, because when you're in that real doubt phase, it's just so difficult to see through it. But I wish I had written down all those little pieces of evidence that I had along the way, so I could come back to it whenever I was feeling doubt. So do that, people. Like, write it down, keep your evidence diary.
Yeah, absolutely. I have my own journal. I literally pulled it up right now. There's over 50 things on it. I stopped, but there's over 50 things on it that I wrote. Crazy. Yes, journal when you start getting chinks in the armor. If you struggle with doubt, is good.
Because I say doubt is stage 1, but it can also be stage 10 and stage 25 and stage, like, it is a killer. Like it was to me.
Yeah, it's a killer, but it's also part of the mechanism, right?
It's a part of the defense, like part
it
of
is.
the like.
Yes, and sometimes the doubts get to the point where it turns into like almost like a mild form of OCD, where there's like nothing that you can tell, that someone can tell you or you can tell yourself. I do want to touch on that briefly. Like, you know, Dan Ratner has recognized this. I recognize this with people that come to me, is sometimes you have all the evidence and yet you still like doubt. And if you're that person, I would say you just need to just do this then. You just need to do it.
Yeah, because you've got nothing to lose. It's not going to cost you any money to start doing all this stuff. And the worst case scenario, you come out more in tune with yourself and your body, and
exactly.
you're gonna remove stress anyway. You're gonna like just do it because it does. I think, as you said earlier, I'm the best I've ever been in my life because of doing this work. Like, it's completely changed my life. So even though it was horrendous for that period, and I feel like I missed out on so much, if it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be where I am today and who I am today. And kind of like, I'm so much more in tune and in touch with myself than I was.
Well,
and it's like, I get to do things. Yeah, I get to do things because they make me happy.
Yes.
Not do things because I'm fearful and avoiding stuff. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's great. Now with the emotional work, you said you would kind of ask yourself, that pain-free now thing is interesting, because you're almost like you're looking for negative emotions. It sounds like you're kind of going in there.
I was gonna say, I was looking for anything actually.
Okay.
But I think it does look for a negative emotion. It does try to get to the like rage or the anger or that you haven't felt, that you've had like.
Yeah. How often
repressed.
would you do that practice or that tool?
For me now, at the end of every day, I don't do it that way. I've developed my own kind of way that works for me. I will lay in bed and do like a relaxation, a body scan. And then I know for me, I have like a blockage kind of like right here, which is where I hold on to my emotions. So I have a like, I will consciously lay there and like relax myself and open it and just make sure nothing wants to rise up, if that makes sense. And I do that every day. And it just stops things from getting congested, stops things from getting overwhelming. And it's like a 5-minute practice. And I still meditate regularly and things like that too, like on top of that, but that's because I enjoy meditating. But I do that kind of like opening because I've recognized that's where I hold things. It's here. And that's why I had so much pain going on here. But
I also hold things here. Sometimes I get what feels like is going to be a throat, like a throat infection, but then it goes away. It was just tightness. Which is interesting. I also wanted, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's really common because I know like Sano was all about anger and rage. The kind of neural signature of anger is that it like starts in your stomach and it rises up and then it wants to come out of your mouth. So if anger is something you have a real problem with, of course you're gonna like squash it down right here because that's like the neural kind of signature of it and it wants to come out of your mouth. So I find if I'm like struggling, I can feel something brewing, I'll just like silently scream and then out it comes. So it's like,
very interesting. I wanted to ask you too, when you're doing these kind of practices, have you ever had an experience, I know I have, where you'll open up that throat and then the anxiety comes? Like you're kind of like, oh, it was there. So I just open my throat and then boom, your heart starts beating. There was that feeling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You open it up and it's like straight away sometimes. And it's like I was like suppressing that, like the amount of energy that goes into keeping that tamped down all the time. You don't even realize it's like you can never actually be fully relaxed. It's kind of just like sitting there and you don't realize that you're like unconsciously, like permanently, like not permanently, but like you're consciously clenching all the time. And anyway.
Yeah.
And it really is just under the surface sometimes.
Right. But, and there's like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, sorry, I like to talk.
No, go ahead.
But when I first started doing the practice, it was really hard to get this stuff out. It was like I used to have this visualization in my head, like I was digging a hole with a shovel. Like it was this really hard, like I had to like excavate the sensation and excavate it, and I had to really like focus on it to try and get it to like come up. But now it's like so easy. I can just like, if I just like open up, it just comes out. So it's like,
well, you created that open door policy type of thing. That's how I like to think about it. Like open door policy, but you have to keep that open door policy.
Yes.
Which is difficult at times because these emotions are very intense.
Sometimes. And sometimes I just feel I'm so overwhelmed. I don't want to do this anymore. I've had enough. But it's just like, it gets easier. It does, but
it does.
It's intense nonetheless. But I think that's what being human is. It's part of the human condition,
Yes,
unfortunately, you got to do tough things.
These emotions, when we desensitize them, it can be really painful at first, but then you get used to it. And when you do that, you're teaching your brain that these things are not a threat. And I love what you said. It takes so much energy in the body to push these things down. And this is classic TMS theory. I think TMS is just too much energy. It's way too much energy in your body. Your body is not made to hold that much energy at once. The body's an energy machine. It can make so much. If you're generating so much, what happens is like what Sarno said, you fill up the rage bucket and then it overflows. And when it overflows, that's when certain symptoms can take place. I do want to talk about coming out of freeze. A lot of people watching this, they're going to be in freeze mode. When you came out of freeze, did you experience anxiety? That's a pretty common experience for people.
I experienced a lot of anxiety, certainly. But I think for me, the thing I noticed the most was because I was perpetually on the go, I used to use my mind and my brain as my like distraction from the pain. So I was layering distraction on distraction on distraction. But
interesting.
Yeah, and I was like always had my head in a book, always had my, you know, but there was also so much brain power going to the symptoms and the pain, and oh my god, what am I feeling now? What am I feeling now? What's going on now? What's happening in my body now? Like there was just so much, my face hurt so much, what's happening with my face, that when I felt those moments where I would just dip kind of into a state of calm, my mind would be like quiet and I'd be like, this is really weird, what's happening? And then I'd have this like, what did I used to think about before I had TMS, before I had the pain? What do normal people think about? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with myself. So then that was kind of how my anxiety manifested. It was just like, it's quiet. I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to think about? What am I supposed to do? Like, yeah, that was kind of for me. It was just
very
like,
common experience. Yeah, you're anxious that you're not anxious.
yes, basically. Like I'm not like, I don't have this like constant loop of like, what's going on in my face? How's my eyes feeling? What's my teeth doing? Like when I stopped focusing on that, it was like, what do I think about? What am I supposed to do?
You touched on something that's very common, which is when you're in pain, you said you use your mind to distract yourself, and you don't even know that that's a distraction, this constant thinking. So common. Carl Jung used to say, when you're thinking, you're not feeling. And when you're feeling, you're not thinking. You cannot do both fully at the same time.
And it's interesting because we live in a world which sort of encourages that. So because I was thinking all the time, I was such an overachiever at like school and at university and so I've got a PhD and I'm not even 30. I've got a degree in psychology. I'm just about to start my master's in psychology.
Wow.
Like just that classic, like because I was using it to stop myself from feeling or doing any of that, like a classic overachiever, but I was so celebrated by people. And it's like, well, hang on.
Socially acceptable addiction.
Yeah. Yes, that's what it is. That's socially acceptable addiction.
Yeah. I mean, that's so common. And, you know, you don't know it, but technically that's like a symptom of the freeze mode. So you're all up here, you're not in here because in here has not been safe enough because of the pain, because you're frightened by the pain and you want to escape, you want to avoid. And that is showing your brain that the pain is a threat. And of course, you're going to be in chronic fight or flight when you're scared of yourself. This body is you. And when you show yourself that you is a problem, of course, you're not going to want to be in your own body. Of course, you're going to, and, you know, end stage of this is like, you're going to have thoughts that you know, sorry if this triggers anybody, but if you have TMS, please know that this is overcomable. Like, then people, they don't want to live anymore because they don't want to live with themselves.
Yeah, I reached that point. As I said, I should have put a trigger warning earlier when I said it, but I was at that point. Like, it was so bad. But it was like I didn't realize that what drove me to that point was not just the pain, but it was how I thought about myself, what I believed about myself, what I believed about the world. Like, that was also a huge part of it. When you
the
have
pain
this
was
like
covering it, right?
Yeah, when you have this core belief that you're rotten and you have these like core sort of like things that are unthinkable and unfeelable, and you're always trying to push that down, there's so much energy that goes into that, so much fear that goes into that. Then you've got the pain on top of that, then you've got the like, all of that contributes to you not wanting to kind of be in this world anymore. Like,
so I want to ask you this, Felicia. Would you say that like a key to healing would be showing to stop fighting both our pain and our emotions?
yes, I love the way you put that. One of the things I fundamentally believe is that we have an innate capacity to heal, and we just sort of have to get out of the way, and that you give yourself that, you stop, you got to stop resisting. Yeah, you just get out of the way, and that innate capacity to heal will come out. So yeah, I like what you
love that. And I love that you're saying that, and it's written all over your story. When you stopped resisting these feelings that are yucky, quote unquote, icky, that's when your body began to calm down, because it no longer had to fight. What would you say to somebody, Felicia, who tells you, I have TMS, I'm gonna fight this thing? I just got this back pain, I'm gonna fight this back pain. I'm gonna fight this autoimmune condition. I'm gonna fight this, eczema, whatever, however it's manifesting for people.
I don't know. It's not a bad attitude to have, I guess, at the start, but I think you realize that's something that will keep you motivated. That like, I need to fight this. I certainly have that, but I think you do realize, and I think it's something no one could tell me. I had to learn it myself too, though. That it's about letting go more than it is about resisting and fighting. And
yeah, and if the people don't get it that are watching this, that's fine, they'll remember.
Yeah, and that's what I said, no one could have told me. I had to learn it the hard way, and that was part of my personality. My personality was, you can't tell me anything. Like, I'm gonna go and do what I want to do. Like, that's always been me. I was always like, you can't tell me anything. Like, so I had to learn it all the hard way.
Yeah, and it serves you in some areas, right? Like if a doctor gives you like a bleak diagnosis, just like, man, forget that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm not gonna believe that.
Yeah, I saw a story of a girl with lupus who was like, I loved it. She was like, the doctor told me I needed a new hip. And I was like, okay, this is information. Like, I don't have to accept this information. Let me see if I can do this on my own. And she did, and she recovered. But we need to know when it serves us and when it doesn't. And so what I tell people, and you tell me what you think of this, Felicia, is, okay, let's fight this thing. Sarno did say we need to confront this, but what is the strategy of fighting this thing? And for this specific thing, the strategy is actually, you need to fight your habit of fighting.
Yeah. Yes. And I think people with TMS are fighters by nature.
Oh, yes.
Kind of what got you there. Like,
and what's kept you alive.
Yes.
Up to this point.
Yes, because you've dealt with so much. Like, to live every day with those sorts of symptoms and to still get up out of bed is like, that's incredible, right? For everyone who does it. And it's like, that is what gets you here, what keeps you alive, what keeps you moving forward. Like, but also I think that's what put me in that situation in some ways too, and kept it going.
Yes, it's very interesting. So yeah, channeling this thing and then your ego too, like channeling your ego in the right ways. So if you're going to fight this TMS thing, if you're going to resist this TMS thing, resist your habit of resistance and fight your habit of fighting. Let go. You're too uptight. If you probably haven't relaxed in a long time, like really truly relaxed.
No, you probably haven't, and you don't even realize it. Yeah, you haven't relaxed, and I think
you don't realize it because you're in freeze mode, and you've got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you've got to relax your mind and your body. It's like two separate, like, well, they're together, they're intertwined, but it's a skill to learn how to relax them both, and at the same time, it's a skill.
It's a muscle, yeah, that can be built for sure. And I generally find that mind first, body second. So body, once up here gets calm, that's kind of the top down kind of approach. But then sometimes you can reverse, you can do it the reverse, but usually it's going to be one before the other. So mind first, body second, or body first, mind second.
I was definitely had to get into my mind first and then body second, but I had to do a lot of body work too. Like, I think body work might be something that it's not talked about too much in the TMS space. I think it probably deserves more than it gets, particularly if you're like me and you're like can't even be in your body. Like, that was so much work to like learn how to just like be in there again. And I didn't have any kind of guidance around that because no one really talks about that component too much. But
yeah, it's not talked about that much. But I think it's picking up steam with like somatic tracking and body scan. I used to do a body scan every night when I was at the thick of CRPS, and I dreaded it. I mean, I dreaded it, but I forced myself to do it, and my fight was, I'm gonna do this, and I'm not gonna fight whatever comes up. I'm gonna allow my pain always increased when I did that. And then until it didn't, until I say, aha, the brain is desensitizing. The brain is saying, he's done this multiple times and didn't have fear thoughts, didn't add to our freak out. Maybe this pain isn't so bad. Maybe it's not that much of a threat.
Yeah, and it's similar for me. And as I said, because I had a lot of my symptoms facial wise, I started at my feet, and I couldn't scan my whole body for quite a while. There was a lot of practice I had to do, and I just gradually worked my way up, and I'd get to the point I was like, no, I don't feel safe right now, so I'd stop. And the next day I'd go a little further, I'd be like, nah, so I'd stop. And it was like just like eventually, you know, that's
gradual. So you did the gradual, dip your toe in, oh nope, dip your foot in, oh, and your leg, and then your
but I will say though, I know you've said before in some of the conversations we've had, you find that women tend to be a bit more gradual. When I went and did the Hakomi therapy afterwards, because I'd spent that time with my body, my therapist was like, he did say to me, wow, you move so fast. You want to be so in your body, because I had done that work beforehand. So, you know, I did do a bit of both.
Yeah, when you were ready, then you were ready to go in.
Yeah, I just had to be ready.
Needed to be ready. Yeah, well, Felicia's been, this has been like an excellent conversation. What is there any last comment you want to leave or advice for the viewers?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'd say I've had a lot of fun. I really enjoy speaking with you. It was really good. You can find my podcast on any kind of like major podcasting platform, I guess. And I'm sort of in the middle of finishing up all my training and things like that to go out and help people do this kind of work for myself. As I said, I'm 4 years into my clinical psychology training. I've just finished the Freedom from Chronic Pain course with Howard Schubiner as well. So I can do all of the, we did pain reprocessing therapy, emotional awareness and expression therapy. I'm learning the internal family system stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, when I'm settled with Bob, off we go. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Yeah, you're going to be great. Yeah. I can tell. I think, when you're somebody who's had it all, like I find this common, like you and Rita, Steve, when you're somebody who was like the full-on TMS personality, you'll have to understand it all to get better. And so you will.
Yeah, I think I'd like to work with because I think everyone likes to think they're special, I guess, but I was a complex case. Like it took me a long time to get out of the pain. There was a lot of layers I had to peel away. There was a lot of myself I had to peel away. So it's like I want to work with people that are like the really kind of complex sort of cases to just because there was no one who had, when I was going through it. That's why I said I did I went to the psychology place, and all they wanted to do was somatic tracking with me. And I was like, I need more than this. I can tell I need more than this. I need more than this. And I was getting so angry. I just left, and I had to find something else. And it was like, everyone sort of has their one main thing. And it's like, I want to be able to put it all together for people and be like, what do you need in this moment? I find that there tends to be either a focus on, somatic tracking and eliminating the fear, or a focus on the emotions.
Yeah, but it's like either or.
It needs to be both, but in the right amounts for you at the right time. And it's just finding someone who can help you with both in the right amounts at the right time. That's what I want to try and put together, because it's that's what I needed. And that's because you had to go over here to get this bit, over here to get that bit, over here to get this bit. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. And how long was that process between you finding out about TMS to like you getting rid of the chronic symptoms?
Oh, I don't know.
Multiple years, do you think, or one, or how long?
Oh, it was over a year, well over a year. It was well over a year, and then I got to a point where I was like, yeah, I'm really good, I'm doing really well. And then I had a major setback, a major flare, and then it took me like 6 months to get out of that flare as well. So like all up, we're talking a couple of years at least, like, so.
Yeah, well, you're here now, and it was a great conversation. Thank you.
Oh, actually, one last thing. Sorry, I do.
Go ahead.
I'm out of pain. You can do it too. There's nothing special about me, really. So I'm going to say that to everyone. I 100% believe that you have what is like, it's inside of you. You can do it. Like, that's my last words.
Absolutely. And your podcast, shout that out again, please.
Let's Talk Mind Body Healing, relaunching in January because I did take a break during COVID. That's when I had a major setback. But yeah, things are going well now, better than before.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Felicia. Thank you guys for watching.